Well, Vince, Doria, it is great to see you. You look very healthy and happy there in Florida, and I'm glad to see that. And I was really appreciative that you're going to talk with us a little bit about maybe the mindset at ESPN. And you were there for such a long time, and I'm sure saw many evolutions of sports coverage, but I don't think we've ever seen anything quite like this. Can you I don't know, did you guys ever talk about what would happen if there wasn't any sports?
Well, to be honest, in my time there, no, we never did. I mean, we never envisioned anything like this. We dealt with the aftermath of 9/11, where, some sports were curtailed for a while. But, in truth, it's much different than this. Sports resumed fairly quickly, and sports became, a bit of a rallying point in the post 9/11 situation. So there was no issue about programming available and so forth like there is now. I talk regularly with about a half a dozen executives up there. We have a group of retired executives down here in Naples that we meet regularly and offer suggestions and guidance and so forth. It's a unique challenge for ESPN because this is a network that is designed, in fact, the very premise of it is based on televising live sports events. They pay billions of dollars a year for the rights to do that. They create studio programming around it, which typically aired highlights of those events, interviews from those events, analysts discussing those events. All of that has gone away. I think they've done a terrific job of, covering the kind of coronavirus as it affects sports, but there's a repetitive aspect of that, certainly. And, there have been some active news stories, obviously the NFL free agent frenzy over Tom Brady and so forth, which kept some viewer interest. The draft is coming up 23rd, I think, and that will get some eyeballs. But, but in truth, it's a challenge. They are leveraging this as an opportunity to showcase some good storytelling programming. There's a Michael Jordan documentary series you may have heard about, a 10-hour series that originally was scheduled to air beginning in June. They've moved that up to April 19th, I believe. That will start airing. There's a new series of E60 shows, which is ESPN's real storytelling brand that will be rolling out over the next few months. There is a large library of 30 for 30 films, the Old Sports Century Project, all of which is pretty much what we refer to as evergreen programming, which means it's still good and can be aired. So you'll be seeing some of that. They're trying some innovative things. There is an NBA 2K tournament going on with players, remotely from their homes playing video basketball against each other. They're negotiating right now with the NBA for a horse contest where players on their individual home courts would play horse versus each other in a video thing. That may or may not come to fruition. So, these are the kind of things that are going on right now. And it's a daily challenge without a doubt. Obviously, viewership is down. There's not much you can do about that except try to create things that might attract people. The biggest problem with this really is in terms of planning. There is no, we don't know the end date. We don't know how long this is going to go on, the lack of live sports events and so forth. Some people want to project June or July. I think that's mostly just spitballing it, pie in the sky, hope there's good news. Some of these events may resume without, live audiences and so forth. That will at least create television programming from that standpoint. But, outside of that, it's pretty much a day-to-day battle and discussions. I urge viewers out there, if you have any ideas, send them along. The Jordan thing was really moved up because viewers knew about it, and there was a lot of input from viewers. Can you move it up sooner? And it wasn't completed yet at the time, but they're working day and night to do that. And there are the same stories there that there are everywhere of people working to create a product there and so forth. In some cases, at risk to themselves. And, that's not a unique story right now, but ESPN's got its own challenges in that area.
I'm just wondering, I've heard of, there's so many things being pushed off into what appears to be a very finite period of time. So the Indy 500, the Kentucky Derby, things that would have gotten a lot of attention in their own individual niche for sports now are going to be pushed on top of what might be other sports. What kind of planning is ESPN doing in the event that all sports sort of converge at the same time?
Well, that's going to be a problem. It'll be a good problem to have, comparatively speaking, here for a lot of broadcast networks. For instance, CBS has an NFL contract, obviously. It's a big Sunday event for them. The Masters, if it goes off as scheduled, is scheduled in September right now. CBS carries that on Sunday, so they'll have to make some choices there. My guess is they probably won't televise an NFL game in that Masters window and so forth. ESPN will have some of those same challenges, but at least right now, we don't know for instance, what baseball is going to do. They're talk about, a lot of doubleheaders when they start and so forth. Is there going to be an NBA season going on during the pro football season? For ESPN, in terms of conflicting with the NFL schedule in the fall, which is kind of what we're talking about here, which is when a lot of these events could start piling up, more baseball, more basketball, Masters, Kentucky Derby, etc. ESPN has Monday Night Football, so it's a one-night deal, and generally, that probably doesn't conflict with anything. So I think in ESPN's case, there won't be the scheduling problem that might be experienced for, let's say, a CBS, for instance, and some of the broadcast networks that, their primary sports program is on the weekends. And if they have a big event like the Derby, like the Indy 500 or something, that could potentially disrupt both pro and college football, they'll have to make some tough choices, obviously. And, but right now, I think everybody's looking forward to having to make that choice. You hope that it's a reality.
You mentioned, a little bit earlier about, at other points in our history, we've come to sport as kind of this rallying point. And September 11th comes to mind for a lot of people. I think in the space that I'm in, and I'm sure for you, that's one of the most disconcerting and difficult pieces is there's no sports to take our mind off things. There's no sports to rally around. There's no kind of that universal connectivity that a lot of us share with sports. What do you think this is going to mean moving forward in terms of the relationship that we have with sports?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, for instance, as I noted here, some of these events may start without audiences, without crowds. And that's the typical coming together aspect of sports, 60,000 people in a stadium. I mean, sports on a regular basis creates larger crowds than almost anything else that I can think of in the United States. And certainly there are other things that draw crowds and so forth, but on a regular basis, getting 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80,000 people in one spot, sports is the primary gathering point for that. Look, I think we're all assuming at some point that will return. Is it going to be 6 months from now? Is it going to be a year from now? When is it going to be? I obviously don't have any better sense of that than anybody else. But I think you've got to, at least keep the belief that is going to continue. Without that, sports becomes basically a television show. I would think, and there's been, it's interesting, there's always been concern about that at the levels as television technology has become more advanced, HD and so forth, all the enhanced graphics and so forth. The notion that watching something on television is a better experience sometimes than going to a game, that's always been kind of a lurking concern on the part of leagues and associations, although they certainly would continue to make television rights money, probably larger money if that were the case. But I don't think anybody really wants to see that become a necessity, a reality that, even you've heard some players talk here during this time that in that kind of environment, they would miss the crowd energy. Right. They appreciate the atmosphere of going into a hostile arena and, having the crowd yelling at them and so forth. it would be strange. It would be strange to watch sports events where something great happens and there's no crowd noise.
Right.
There's no reaction like that to it, which is really part of the experience. And then, by the way, part of the television viewing. It adds, obviously brings the energy to the telecast and so forth. So, I don't think anybody wants to contemplate sports without attendance. And, clearly I believe at some point that will come back. But again, the biggest, question mark for everybody is when.
Right. Well, how are you kind of coping with the void of sport in your life?
Well, down in Florida here, as I mentioned to you when we spoke earlier, the golf courses are still open. I'm still playing 3 days a week. There are numerous protocols put in place, either walking or single-person carts, ball washers removed, rakes removed, pins. You can't touch pins or the holes. The hole is elevated to within a half inch of the ground so you can rake the ball out. Everybody keeps their social distancing, and it seems not dissimilar to walking, which I'm doing a lot too, where, you walk along and when people come to each other, everybody, bears to the right, bears to the left, says hi and takes their separation. When you first started doing that, it felt strange. Now now it seems normal, So yeah, that's what I'm doing to try to remain active down here, and I'm grateful we've still got the ability to do that. We've got the weather down here, obviously, to allow us to do it. And I don't imagine in that regard I'm much different than anybody else. It's interesting in golf in Connecticut, where I live the other 6 months of the year. The state is essentially shut down, and the golf courses had been shut down, but the governor reopened them, and they're playing golf up there now. Same kind of protocols that I described down here. And, is there a risk involved? I'm sure there's some risk in everything we do here, but at some point, you've got to live some kind of life. And obviously you're taking precautions and so forth, but, you're also trying to create things in your life to look forward to. So.
No question.
Right now it's golf 3 days a week.
Well, that's pretty good. Vince, Doria, I am just so happy to see you, and I'm really happy that you took some time to talk with us and share your thoughts. And I just hope that you stay well, and I see you pretty soon up here at a Buckeye game.
Well, I look forward to it, Nicole. You take care and stay safe.
Thanks, you too.
All right. Bye-bye now.